Doomfist has arrived, as you undoubtedly know by now, thanks to the plethora of YouTube videos covering this brand new hero in Overwatch. What I wanted to do here in today's video was hopefully get into the nitty-gritty more so than might have been covered so far. I want to talk about each of his abilities individually and go over damage values, distances, and some interesting things that I learned with playtesting Doomfist over these past 24 hours. So let's start off with what I'd probably call the least interesting part of his kit, and that is his basic attack, the hand cannon. It fires 6 pellets and's got 4 rounds total. Each one of these pellets looks to deal 11 damage for a total of 66 damage if all 6 pellets hit. So what this means when it comes to attacking and killing any of the 200 health heroes in this game, it's gonna take 3 body shots to nearly finish them off. They've got a little bit of health left, which you can either follow up with a 4th shot or a melee punch. 2 headshots will be enough to kill a 200 HP hero, and a body shot plus a headshot and a punch will also do the trick. When it comes to the bigger heroes though, the only 66 damage per shot really starts to become evident. If you're going for body shots against a Roadhog, it takes over 8 shots to actually finish him off. And because of the fact that his weapon reloads itself at a relatively slowly pace at about 1 round per second, that any of those heroes with larger health pools, namely the tanks, are gonna be a lot harder for Doomfist to deal with just his weapon, just because, yeah, he can front load some damage, but then he's gotta wait for those individual reloads, making him not very effective after that initial burst. In terms of its effective range, this is a shotgun style weapon that does have a bullet spread. The further away you are from your target, the bigger the spread becomes on the pellets and the less amount of pellets that are going to hit. I found that the effective range seemed to be about 20 to 25 meters. As you get further beyond that point, more of the pellet spread is going to mean that you're going to hit less of the targets. Bigger targets mean you'll hit them more at a further distance, but most of the targets in this game are smaller because not everyone is a huge tank. So most of the enemies in this game, 20 to 25 meters is where your weapon will still have its full effectiveness. And what I found really interesting is it doesn't appear like there is any damage fall off on his pellets. So even though it's going to be harder to hit enemies from further away, any of the pellets that do connect will still deal their 11 damage or 22 damage if you manage to land a critical hit. It's an okay weapon. It's obviously best at close range, and that's where Doomfist is going to try to spend most of his time, thanks to all of the rest of the abilities in his kit, beginning with his alternate attack, and that is Rocket Punch. It has you charging forward, hitting any enemies that come within your path and knocking them backwards, dealing increased damage if you manage to knock them against the wall. At its base charge, if you just hit it right away and let go, looks like you can get between 10 and 12 meters of distance. At full charge, your distance will go up to about 30 meters. I don't think it is a full 30 though, because in the testing range, standing at the 30-meter marker, I came up just shy of hitting the training dummy at the end of that range. It's not only distance that changes with the amount of charge though, so does the damage. At a quick release, you will only deal 50 damage. At a full charge, you will deal 100 damage. The 50 damage is doubled if you hit your target against the wall with a light charge, going up to 100. However, at full charge, you actually deal 250 damage. So it looks like there is a multiplier within the range of how much you have charged Rocket Punch. And as you assume with those damage values, 250 damage means you can one-shot a good portion of the Overwatch roster. Essentially, any of the non-tanks, with the exception of Bastion, you can one-shot if you full charge Rocket Punch them into a wall. It's also worth noting that Rocket Punch only moves horizontally. You can't go vertical up into the air. However, if you are already in the air, you still move horizontally. You won't drop down to the ground, meaning that you can combo it with having elevation to get a charge against anyone who may be flying, like say a Pharah. And this works really good with his first skill, which is Rising Uppercut. Doomfist uses his Doomfist to leap up into the air, punching anyone within close distance, dealing damage and knocking them up and back. This has a 7-second cooldown. He will jump up into the air with an uppercut and can connect to enemies who are just about 5 meters away. Anyone beyond that range though, you won't be hitting. You will deal 50 damage, launching them up into the air with you, and also while in the air, you are suspended for a brief second. This allows you to follow up with an attack or other abilities, making for all sorts of combo potentials. Also, when you're in the air, you've got horizontal movement control. And as we said, because of the nature of this and the fact that you have some hang time once you reach the peak of the uppercut, you can combo it with a shot or something like Seismic Slam. This is his second ability ability where he slams onto the ground, does the damage in a cone, and also knocks enemies back. This also has a 7-second cooldown. Now, when used just on the ground, if you're just flat on your feet, you go about 8 meters forward. However, when airborne, it looks to have a max range of about 25 meters. Now, what was really interesting in testing Seismic Slam is that its damage values were all over the place. Initially, when I was using Seismic Slam, it looked to deal about 40 to 50 damage a majority of the time, and some were at times getting upwards of 50 to even 60 damage. But upon further testing, we actually came to realize that depending on Doomfist elevation in relation to where he is landing, his damage values would change. If we were on a slight incline, the Doomfist coming at me would deal slightly more damage as opposed to a Doomfist coming at me with Seismic Slam who was on a flat level plane. And if Doomfist was elevated, say at a higher platform, and he did a Seismic Slam down off of that platform onto me at a lower level, we were getting damage values up to 100. It didn't appear to matter where we were within the cone of Seismic Slam, just the elevation that Doomfist began, or rather maybe just how far down he came as he was going through the Seismic Slam animation. Also, because Seismic Slam does leap you forward, if you use it with something like Rising Uppercut, this is a combo that can actually be used to get to a higher elevation. And finally, we have got his ultimate, Meteor Strike. Doomfist leaps up into the air, becoming invulnerable for a duration of 5 seconds. At any point, he can slam back down, dealing 300 damage at the epicenter of the attack, and progressively less to enemies further away, but still within its radius. So any of the squishy heroes in the game, 300 HP or below, are going to be one shot at the epicenter. Anything outside of that though, it really just kind of tickles. The biggest issue though is that you don't know until it lands if you're going to be in the middle or on the edge of the Doomfist ultimate. That's because as the opposing team, you can't see where he's about to land. The full diameter of his ultimate looks to be about 15 meters, with the epicenter only taking up about 5 meters. So it's a pretty small location, and if you're constantly moving around, you might be able to avoid it. If you're stuck in place, well, then you might be in trouble. And then we couldn't go without mentioning his passive, the Best Defense. With this, he gets a shield based on the damage that he deals with his abilities. What is interesting about this is that the amount of shield that you get doesn't appear to be based on the amount of damage you do, but rather the abilities that are being used. It looks like every time you rocket punch an enemy, you will gain 30 shields. Every time you rising uppercut an enemy, you will also gain 30 shields. Seismic Slam seems to give you 30 shields per enemy hit. Meteor Strike looks to give 75 per enemy hit. And then the shields also appear to cap at an extra 150, bringing his total health up to 400. The shields will degenerate at what looks to be 2 shields per second. Doomfist is a really interesting hero. It's a big diversion from most of what we've seen in this game so far, being pretty much melee focused. Certainly his basic attack is like a mini shotgun, but you are going to be spending a lot of your time rocket punching, rising uppercutting, and seismic slamming right in the face of your opponents. We can't discredit the strength of something like Rocket Punch, and I think when used effectively, Doomfist is going to be a scary character for basically anyone who's not a tank in this game. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for me here today. Happy to take a close look at Doomfist. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you have a good one, and until next time, I'll see you later.